The last colonial question which must be resolved is the land question.
Right. Prof, something else that's been happening across the world is that America and Trump and Elon Musk launched what they call DOGE, which is Department of Government something.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I've forgotten. Yeah, but basically they're supposed just to oversee how the government is performing.
Defective delivery of services.
Yes. What's your take on that, and how do you think they're doing?
You know, number one, I always remind people that the President of the United States is the President of the United States. But of course, the United States is a world power, and there is always the tendency to have what I call Pax Americana. And during this administration, we have President Donald J. Trump, whose style is considered by some to be unorthodox. And he has entered into this union with Elon Musk, who, through having control of serious social media platforms, cannot be ignored. And my view is that certain decisions that are being made by the Trump administration, particularly with regard to the continent of Africa, are not founded on understanding the reality. I've seen, for example, the executive order, which was in response to the decision by the South African government and articulated by Cyril Ramaphosa, who is the president, regarding expropriation of land without compensation, which in the interpretation of the Trump administration is seizing land from the rightful owner. But if you look at the history of land in that country, you have the minority owning the largest size of land in that area. And Elon Musk, who is himself South African, is seen to be the force behind this, with the consequence that we now have a group of Afrikaners who say that they want a two-state solution. So my suggestion is that the Trump administration ought to be properly informed about the reality. And I've been very happy with the manner in which Cyril Ramaphosa has responded. He said, I'm sending a delegation of individuals to the United States of America to make them understand the history of land and the current status of land. And I hope that when the Trump administration is confronted with the evidence, they will be able to change the position and retract the executive order.
Do you think Elon Musk is not aware, having been born and raised in South Africa, or he's just being racist for no reason?
I think there is a sense in which he's being racist. There is a sense in which he is a prisoner of the past. There is a sense in which he doesn't want to come to grips with the reality of the moment, that if indeed, as was contemplated in 1994 under the South African Constitution, that you want to create a rainbow nation, there must be fairness and equity. And that equity means that we must not continue to give legality to what is fundamentally economic apartheid. A teacher of mine once told me that the last colonial question which must be resolved is the land question. And it cannot be right that nearly over 80% of the population only has access to no more than 20% of the land. It is not sustainable. It is not in the best interest of everybody. And I believe that the time is now to confront it. And one of the things that we must do is to convert Mr. Musk by confronting him with evidence and by persuading him by force of reason that he had better cast his lot with the people of South Africa in their entirety. And I always love to make this statement almost ad nauseum. It was a statement that was made in the 1960s by Robert Mangaliso Sobukwe. When he was asked about race, he said, there is only one race, the human race. I want to remind Elon Musk, there is only one race, the human race.
But what would make Trump, who's miles and miles away from South Africa, really want to meddle in the issues of land in Africa? Because for me, that doesn't make sense.
You know, the world, as we say, is a global village.
Yeah.
What happens in South Africa, the land tenure systems and the mining systems, it depends on who owns these things. These are factors of production. So it is the truth that the world and a country like South Africa, which is rich in resources, is a country that trades with the United States of America, and how you deal with land may very well have implications on how they are going to access these important minerals. You are talking uranium, you are talking lithium, you are talking cobalt, you are talking gold. And some of the largest consumers of these products are to be found in the conceptual West, led by the United States of America.
So essentially, it's a trade
of course.
war that
and you know,
started.
Trump is engaged in what I call saber-rattling diplomacy, where he wants an apple, but he asks for the whole orchard so that he can negotiate you down. And when he negotiates you down, he has gotten the apple that he wanted in the first place. And that is sometimes how I understand this very aggressive style of negotiation and this idea of issuing executive orders like confetti.
In all this, the other order he gave was saying that he will not, USAID, there's a freeze that was also to affect South Africa. And for South Africa, Ramaphosa responded by saying it's only 17% of the budget, which essentially just funds the HIV/AIDS program. So whether you pull out, and then the minister for, I think, minerals and something said, we will pull our minerals from you. So it was almost an equal.
A tit for tat kind of thing.
Yes. So when you look at it from that perspective, what's your take on this whole USAID freeze across Africa?
You know, the USAID freeze, in my view, is not a bad thing. Of course, we will suffer, African countries and individuals will suffer in the short to medium term. But if you have a system that perpetuates dependency for a long time, then it lulls you into a false sense of security. And if African countries and African politicians and civil servants were to stop stealing, we have enough money to do many of these things. Look at the monies that over the years have had to be returned, which are stolen and kept in Europe and America and little islands which are controlled by them. Look at the Mobutu money, the Abacha money, the Madueke money from Sudan, from Nigeria recently. All these monies, if Western Europe and America were to ensure that stolen money is not kept by politicians in their backyard, then we don't need USAID.
Just like that.
Oh yeah, we don't need them.
And I'm sure a lot of Africans are looking at Ramaphosa as such a bold man, having stood up for the right of South Africans, essentially. What does that say about him as a leader? And I'm also wondering if it was, let's say, a Kenyan or Ugandan affair, would the president fight in the same vigor? You
know, the Ramaphosa that I'm seeing now is the Ramaphosa that I knew when he was in COSATU. There was a time when he had become very mild, almost kowtowing to the West, but this is the Ramaphosa of COSATU. And remember that what Ramaphosa is saying is what my friend Julius Malema has been saying through the EFF. So there is a sense in which there is a meeting of minds, and this is good for South Africa. But you've also asked another question. We have had leaders who have been bold and who have stood their ground. We have had leaders at certain moments, like him or hate him. President Museveni has been bold on certain occasions. President Paul Kagame has been bold on certain occasions. Thomas Isidore Sankara has been bold on certain occasions. President Traore is bold on certain occasions. So it is not as if there is a shortage of leaders. And of course, Muammar al-Gaddafi, much more recently, has been bold on a number of occasions. So African countries are capable of standing their ground. But the message that is to be sent is that if we were speaking from one standpoint as Africa, our diversity notwithstanding, you can imagine how it would be treated differently.
Well, so it would make such a world power.
Yeah, absolutely.
Finally, what do you think this whole thing will make Malema react on? What will be his end goal with that?
I know that Cyril Malema's EFF is going through certain challenges, and this is to be expected in a political environment. Ultimately, I believe that in the South African environment, whether one is Mkhonto, Wesizwe, which has Zuma as its leader, or EFF led by Malema, or the ANC, or the PSC, that on this question of land, all of them are reading from the same script. And it is important that they do. I've already seen that the DA, through Helen Zille, have gone to court on this issue that is unconstitutional. But if the freedom fighters come together, their political differences notwithstanding, I think this is the one issue that they must come out and speak with one voice. And I've already seen Julius Malema speaking very firmly on this particular issue. And I think that that is the right thing to do.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.